Like a little cushion?
Yeah, my ass hurts.
How much taller James? It looks like Lord of the Rings. Gandalf, you never come to town.
Ow! Fuck.
God damn it.
What'd you do?
Just slammed his
Oh,
knee.
I just slammed my knee into that computer. Fixed it.
This looks hilarious.
Welcome to Funhaus, everybody. This week's episode is sponsored by Quip. Thank you, Quip, for bringing us here today. My name is Daniel Schneider. I've got Adam Kovic and James Willems with me today.
Hollywood power couple. What's up?
You're
So,
looking a little small.
oh yeah, why are you so tiny, Adam?
Well, as you know,
Is it a
it's
trick?
the 30th anniversary of The Lord of the Rings coming out in IMAX.
Yep.
And James and I are recreating our favorite scene from The Fellowship, where Elijah Wood was already tiny, so they didn't have to do much.
Yeah.
They still had small people play them, but it was great.
If you go
Wait a
to,
second. What did I do here?
not Universal, if you go to like the Warner Brothers lot,
Yeah, I do.
they have like a place where you can go. It's like the movie making museum, and there's a place where you can. This is how we made Lord of the Rings. Like they have a camera set up, and the table's like a weird jagged Z-shaped table, and like one of you sit here, one of you sit here, and the mug's big and the mug's small or whatever. It's like everything's perspective based, and they're like you can look through the lens and you see that it's. Except no one bothered to actually set up the camera to be right. So it just looks like two people sitting at a Z-shaped table unevenly.
Where is this?
In Warner Brothers Studios.
Oh, the studio tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to do that one day. But speaking of Lord of the Rings, Dan,
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, so last week HBO dropped a new trailer for the upcoming season 8 final season of Game of Thrones.
Rip John Aaron.
Yeah,
Guys, right?
all the way back in the day,
Rip
right?
John Aaron.
The most important character. But yeah, so we're less than a month away when this airs from the final season of Game of Thrones, which I would say is probably maybe one of the most anticipated events in TV history.
Not since the finale for MASH.
Yeah,
that
when
people
everyone
didn't
flushed their
miss.
toilet
Wow.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Was that one?
Yes.
They said everyone went and flushed the toilet at the same time and fucked up the water supply.
Commercial, yeah.
does it make Game of Thrones not good if everyone likes it? Isn't it?
That's a pretty cynical view.
No.
but-
That's well, I feel like that's how a lot of people feel like, where they say, I like this thing because I discovered it, when in fact millions, if not billions of people will enjoy this content in some capacity.
I think the themes and plot of Game of Thrones appeal to a base level like drama desire, and I think that's why it's so popular. I do think that it's incredibly well made.
I just want to ask, does it make me basic? Okay,
I
good.
don't think
I mean,
so.
if you said Game of Thrones was the only thing you watched,
Sure.
like as though you said, I watch Game of Thrones, nudge, nudge. But the fact that you watch it knowing that everyone watches it means you're not basic.
I think my mom even watches it, and she's a bit more harder to please when it comes to like modern media. It's kind of like Lawrence. Like I think
Yeah, he hates this show,
He hates
right?
Game of Thrones.
Well, he hasn't watched it. In his defense, he's like, I don't even know, did he watch Lost or something? His whole thing was, I'm not going to just jump in on something that I don't honestly believe will be resolved, which is his criticism.
I could actually see that as a very legit criticism
Yeah.
of the way the show's going. At least.
Yeah.
I think most shows, no matter how good they are, usually have a lull or they have a rough patch or something. I think that's just sort of what happens when you're working on something long enough. But
I mean,
for as long as Game of Thrones has been going, it is still really damn good.
Well, it's because there's generally a period in time when something is they start making it. They don't even know if they'll get 10 episodes. So they're making it thinking we don't even know if we'll get 10 episodes.
You throw everything at the screen.
And then the studio comes back or whatever, the network comes back and they go, we want 20 seasons. And then they go, well, they're not going to go no.
All right, that's a lot of quiche.
Unless you're already successful, you can't go no when this network comes back and says we want more. So you basically have to say okay, and then you have to spin your wheels for. That's what happened with Lost, I guess. Apparently,
Yeah.
is they had like an idea and they're like, this will never last more than 2 seasons.
And they had to stretch it.
They put a lot of money though into those pilots, and I believe the president or whatever of NBC got fired for it because
For making Lost?
basically for greenlighting Lost. Like, you spent how much on this? You're gone, and then it ended up being a hit show, and which is, I mean, it always makes you think maybe there's something else going on. But I was curious from you guys, how did you get into Game of Thrones? The show, not the books.
Elise told me to watch it. Honestly,
I remember maybe 6 or 7 months before the show came out, there's chatter on the internet saying this is going to be the greatest thing in the world. People are obsessed with these books. And I guess the pilot script had leaked, and I read that, and it seemed pretty cool. The show came out, it was great, and then I had like an hour and 10-minute commute to work for about a year, and I just listened to all of Game of Thrones. That's how
so you listened to all the books before the show came out?
I think after the first season, I started getting those books from people at work, essentially.
Yeah. I mean,
they're really great, by the way. Listen to the audiobooks. I mean, you could read them too if you like reading. I love reading, but
hyper detailed.
But those audiobooks are insane. That Roy Dotrice guy that reads them, he set some Guinness Book of World Records record for reading number of characters or something like that.
I had an issue with the first book only because same thing. They're like, worked with a bunch of nerds. Fellow nerds, I should say, who are like, holy shit, Game of Thrones is coming out. And I think they released that trailer where it just showed Sean Bean out in like Ireland, just like walking around a bunch of grass. And I was like, I guess there's a show here. I don't know. Everyone says it's going to be cool. And I listened to the books, but they're talking about, it was hard to get a sense of scale of what was going on because it starts really small in Winterfell and you're not really sure who's who or what's what. But once the show aired, then I read the book and I went, got it. I can put an image.
Yeah, once you have
everything.
an image of those actors, you can kind of keep track of the characters in your head. Because there are it is really hard to keep track of when you just dive into this for the first time, I think.
And that first season's pretty close. I think there's just there's a couple different things. I know with like Tyrion, the way he meets Bronn and a bunch of other things. Like there's some things that are switched around a little bit, but it was pretty close.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that's close for the first 3 books, and then by the 4th one, everything just like splits. Yeah. And then you're like, if you're watching the show and reading the books, you're going like, I don't understand how. I guess I can only assume the book is going to be entirely different, or I have to read the rest of these books knowing that none of this matters.
Yeah, I think that's an issue I have, like having all these great characters that don't even exist in the show, and just I guess assuming that they don't matter in the long run. Because it's a show, they have to trim from the couple hundred main characters that those books have.
It is a pretty spectacular adaptation, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's gone beyond that at this point, but like, it really is.
Well, this is the thing everyone said you should be doing. We talked about this last week, I believe, or the week before, but that books should probably not be adapted into films if they're hyper detailed, like Harry Potter or Golden Compass or his Dark Materials or whatever, and Game of Thrones. You go, make it a season and you can get a lot more out of it. But even then, people still complain because they go, you made it too short. Make it twice as long. But it's also one of the most expensive shows in television history. So.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if they had faithfully adapted those books, they would only be a quarter of the way through this the whole series.
But I've never really felt like the pacing was too much of a problem for this show. I know people had issues last season, but I don't know. For me, it seems like the first season feels so slow. Like it feels like it, but not in a bad way, but it just seems like it's just like this slow, it's a snowball, right? And it just slowly moving. But now we're at the point in the show where it's spiraling forward, especially Elise and I just rewatched all the previous season, and now we're going back through and like cherry picking episodes to watch, so like Battle of the Bastards and Joffrey's wedding and like all kinds of we're just like picking these random episodes to watch, and it's like pretty impressive to see the difference, like the ground that's covered. It's like it used to be the motif that you'd wait for episode 3. In episode 3, something important would happen at the end. It'd be like a regular episode, but then something really important would happen at the very end of episode 3, and then that would be the thing that causes the shit to roll until episode 9, which would be we spent all of our money on this episode, or whatever it may be, dramatic reaction, and then episode 10 would be a resolution teasing and setting things up for the next one. So, But the most recent season was not anything like that. Every single episode had shit going down.
Yeah.
you
Crazy
know?
fights.
Huh?
How many people or like percentage of HBO subscribers do you think they're going to get a bump in the beginning of April for this show?
Don't people cancel and then resubscribe just for this show?
That's what I imagine. Like a huge chunk of their subscriber base is.
You
I mean,
think?
that's me. That's
Or-
I'm gonna
or-
go get HBO in April.
Or
for
is it
this.
like with most passive viewers, people sign up for it, forget about it, and go, I'm spending how much a month to not watch something? Just waiting. I don't know. I mean, in a way, though, that funds this show so they can do it. But it is it's bittersweet, right? Because you're like, I want this show to be the best thing ever, and this is the last season. And you're like, what do I do after this?
Well, you wait about a year, and they're going to have spin-off number 1.
Right.
And a couple years after that, will be spin-off number 2.
Robert's Rebellion.
There's
Right.
George R.R. Martin has a huge universe and world here. It's there's multiple world books and other stories. I think they could make Game of Thrones for 30 years.
Well, people.
Yeah,
Or
I
Ice
don't
and
know that
Fire
people will.
stories.
I could see this appears to be the strongest story because even if you do prequel stuff, you know where it goes.
Yeah.
I think what's so compelling about this arc of the Song of Ice and Fire world is that it's a big surprise. Like it's a big surprise,
Yeah.
you know.
Anytime you do a prequel, I guess it has that same limitation as you know where it's going to end. But there's some cool stories in the history of Game of Thrones. When
yeah.
there's lots of people riding on the backs of dragons fighting over
Yeah.
the realm or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like Star Wars, though, where the core Star Wars story is Luke, or I guess the Skywalker quadrilogy? What do you, when you hit 9, what is it? Either way,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It will be a word that has never been used before. Someone will tell me in the comments. But regardless, it seems like everyone has a really hard time grasping this idea that you can get away from this core story, which right now is the Starks and the Lannisters and this whole story, which is essentially a retelling of the War of the Roses, but done with a fantastical element, which is really well done. But if they do a prequel, or like, do you think they're ever just going to go, this takes place 5,000 years in the future or in the past, and it doesn't really matter because it's fantasy and technology doesn't really advance. We just want to have new characters in a fantasy setting, in a dark-ish fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Well, the spinoff they have is The Long Night, which takes place 8,000 years before this.
Nice.
When the White Walkers first come during like a super long winter.
But Tyrion will be in it, right?
Yes. No, there's probably will be Starks, I'm guessing.
Right.
Starks and White Walkers.
Yeah, I know
is the connection.
They tried this briefly with Battlestar. Battlestar is a much cheaper version of Game of Thrones or Star Wars or any of that, but they had a pretty good core show. I liked it. James hated it. Don't know how
I
you feel
enjoyed
about
it.
Okay.
I dug it.
I didn't hate it. I just thought all the walls looked like they were made out of paper mache, and every time they said frack, I wanted to kill myself.
It was a cheap ass show made on the Sci-Fi Channel that was like had some really good writing behind it, but that show basically kind of worked in spite of its budget and everything. They still made it look pretty good. The visual effects team did a great job, but then they try to do extra stuff after it. Caprica was one where they're still like,
oh God, I forgot about that.
it was awful. And then even I think Machinima had a web series where it's like, this is about Adama's character when he was young, and like, don't care. No one cares. It's and that's my fear is that they'll do this. Like, what about Ned Stark when he was young and had a weird face and like that was a strange actor they cast to play him.
It's not exactly striking. Like it's not like lightning striking necessarily, but there is something where it's like the actors and the characters and the setting and the plot make it successful, not just that it's called Game of Thrones, which is a weird thing that a lot of times people don't understand. Like when you're signing, they're like, but it's associated with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So let's do, it's not Rick Grimes in Walking Dead, it's other
It
Walking
happens in Los Angeles.
As long as it's called Walking Dead, people will love it.
Is that show still on?
Fear the Walking Dead?
I think both of them, yeah, maybe.
I think so.
It's weird because they're like, yeah, they lost like 30% of their viewers, so only 12 million people watch it a day.
But the difference,
a week
the
or
difference
whatever.
between Walking Dead and Game of Thrones is that Game of Thrones is good.
Yeah.
Well,
there's
Walking
an
Dead
end.
is like The Walking Dead is like if they did a spin-off of Wheel of Fortune. Like it's just people that are comatose, drooling out of their mouths watching the show.
It was, yeah, that's actually very similar because I remember similar thing where the source material is pretty strong. Walking Dead's an interesting read. I thought it was like a pretty good comic book, and I was like kind of excited to see how to go as a show. But like as soon as they exhausted that first episode, it was like, and they're out of ideas. Like,
and like part of the idea of The Walking Dead is like, what if the zombie movie doesn't end? And
that's
this
how he
has an
pitched it.
ending.
Yeah.
We're going to see someone's version of the ending in the next 2 months.
Yeah, it's weird because some people, I saw some complaints with Attack on Titan, completely different show, but still something that like I watch on like pornography for the plot, right? Like I'm watching it week to week because it's getting more interesting of what's happening when it's airing. But apparently, a lot of people were upset that they weren't just going week to week killing Titans. Like there's an audience that goes, just do the same thing every week. Go out there, have an action scene, do this. Whereas I'm the guy sitting there going, oh, I actually kind of like the lore and what's going on. Like it's getting weird and kind of crazy. And the thing they did last season I thought was fantastic. But I want something to have an ending, right?
Well, I think a lot of times the ending will make a story. Endings are extremely hard to pull off. Like I think a lot of movies are ruined, or TV shows are ruined with poor endings. And I think it's extremely hard to execute. And if you don't have that plan to pull things together, then it'll be a Walking Dead that just kind of spins in circles for years and years.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but you can maybe think about it real quick. What show had the best ending?
That is really tough.
Yeah.
I thought Battlestar actually
Parks
had a
and
pretty
Rec.
good ending.
Parks and Rec, I think, has one of the best television endings of all time because they give you like they make it so that like they're like, we're never going to do more of these because we're going to give you the next 50 years of every single character's life. So like it was very satisfying and it was funny without being like, and it also felt like an episode. So I think Parks and Rec had a great ending.
I think The Wire had a really good ending. It did one of those things where essentially there was like a new version of every one of the archetype characters. Like there's like, okay, this is the new guy who's like a homeless crackhead, and this is the new guy in charge of the newspaper who's going to suck at it. Just kind of like hit home that cyclical nature of how horrible modern society is, I guess.
Yeah. Mine would be probably Justice League Unlimited because they ended it with an episode of Batman Beyond, which was rad.
Oh,
That's cool.
That's more for me. It's a cartoon, definitely aimed at kids and I guess some adults, but I enjoyed how that ended. And its overall ending of Lost was not great, but it had a lot of season finales that I thought were fantastic. I don't know if you guys ever watched Lost.
Well, they always had
I watched it for a
crazy
little while.
cliffhangers and it introduced something that you're like, wait, what the fuck is going on here?
The show obviously revolved around time. I guess, if you haven't watched Lost, I guess check it out. It's really good. Parts of it, some seasons drag on, but I'll totally spoil this. They do the episode. I don't know if you guys saw the one where they introduce the flash forwards.
Oh yeah.
And so it's the main character, Matthew Fox's character, Jack, going around like totally upset. You're unclear what's going on. And then at the very end, it's him off the island talking to one of the characters who's on the island with. And you're like, wait, what? They get
we gotta go back.
And that, we got to go back. I have a fake beard. And like, it ended right there. And I remember I had such a sinking feeling in my body. I was like, that was a cool TV moment. I guess whether the payoff worked out, obviously didn't. It's purgatory. Spoiler.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think a lot of that show was ruined with having that end that everyone predicted at the beginning, and the showrunner was like, "That's not it," and then it was.
Well, sure. I
guess there are multiple timelines and like multiple universes by the end, so you can say that wasn't the real ending. But
the point I guess I was trying to get to with the ending, the ending shouldn't really matter.
I think it's clutch, man.
So, but that's like when Game of Thrones is over, will you look back on it and go, did I have a good time? Was it worth the culminated days I devoted only watching? You didn't actually have to make it.
I think it depends a lot on the structure of the show. Something like Game of Thrones, the very first scene of the whole show is bad guys are coming, right?
Yeah.
But then what it does, which is very smart for television and for books or for anything that you want to go on for a really long time, is you introduce new good guys and new bad guys and then you have them. So there's lots of moments that have already happened in Game of Thrones that are satisfying from a narrative perspective, where the bad guys have lost or have won, or the good guys have triumphed or teamed up or survived or lost. So it's like a lot of stories, it does feel like they come to a close. Meanwhile, there is this ever looming threat. Whereas with Lost, and I haven't seen maybe enough of it to really say, it felt like the thing that gets you into Lost is what's going on.
Yeah, what's
the mystery?
It's the mystery box.
And there were small little plots going on, but almost all of them are related to maybe this has something to do with the mystery. Yeah. So if the end mystery isn't satisfying, then it's harder to swallow that ending, I think.
That's how they justified it. They said, well, no, it was never about the answers. It was about the
journey.
It was about the journey and the questions. But that's a shitty way to treat your audience.
I mean, I think there's a way to get away with that by saying, like, it wasn't about this question, but it was about this along the way. So, I mean, I don't know. How much did the characters grow and change and
a lot
develop during the show? Because that's like some way you can quantify it too.
I would say the better version of that is Game of Thrones, only because the first episode starts out with a character fucking his sister and pushing a kid out of a window. And within 2 or 3 seasons, he's a likable person.
Yeah.
Ends up becoming one of the most likable characters.
I think that's a lot of what Martin did really well. Was like he kind of takes these archetypes and subverts them a little bit. So you're like, oh, I know this guy. He's the bad boy. We're gonna hate him and want to see him die. But then he's like, watch him, flip him, be good, make you care about him, and that makes it an extremely interesting character.
Well, I think credit goes to Martin, but also credit goes to the show, because in the books, that's way easier to do when you get to hear the bad guy's internal monologue and justification for their actions. To me, that's like, okay, well, that's a way easier way to do that. It's way simpler to empathize with someone when you know exactly why they're thinking the way they're thinking. The show doesn't have any of that. Like, if the show was like The Office and it cut and it went to Cersei and she was like, I just feel threatened sometimes by other blonde women, or something,
well, that was which book was that where you spend half your time in Cersei's head?
4,
It actually makes her very intriguing and fun to hang out with.
Expose that she's pretty much batshit crazy. Yeah. I think it's all the inbreeding. Hot take. Throwing that one out there.
It's weird because she's her father's daughter, but she's a woman in that world. She's got way more of a reputation for being a bitch as opposed to Tywin, who is a bitch but respected.
Yeah, everyone was afraid of him.
But she, if she was a boy, then there would have been.
Interesting. So this is the new trailer, and I want to thank you both for watching this because I think you were both avoiding it before doing this show.
Trying
thank you.
To.
But I think they did a pretty good job of not really spoiling anything. There's a few things that I think could be taken as spoilers.
It's just one of the few shows where I'm unable to guess what the next episode will contain, and for me, always thinking of plots and comparing it to other things, I ruin shows for myself. By doing that, and
so you
then
don't
being
do that
right.
with Game of Thrones. You don't have any expectations of the end of the show.
I do, but I'm generally wrong.
Yeah,
and it's one of the few shows that's ever done that for me, which is why I was season 2. I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna fucking investigate this show at all. At least looks up spoilers and stuff.
Yeah.
There's leaked images of Peter Dinklage and Emilia Clarke are together on set, and I'm like, I don't want to know that. Because I want him to roll off a boat and then get decapitated in the first episode, and me be like, oh shit. Those are believable scenarios in Game of Thrones at this point.
Yeah, I think online culture, in a way, has ruined a lot of good television, and we do it to ourselves. I've definitely done it to myself, where it's because you have these burning questions which are supposed to get you into the show, but now every TV show, no matter how big or small, has a community behind it, and then people immediately start sharing screenshots, theories, all this stuff, and I have found entertainment to be less enjoyable that way. But I get it, because we as a human race have the burning question for answers, and we can find them from each other. But when it's entertainment, that doesn't really mean anything. It's pure enjoyment. It's how do you want to consume this content? Do you want to go in with an idea of what's going to happen, or would you rather just be completely surprised? And that's I'm the latter. I don't really want to be spoiled by stuff anymore, because I have been spoiled by too many things, so I just try not to watch trailers in general.
I think this show in particular is super deep on the mythology and the mysteries and the questions. So there are dozens of YouTube channels and websites out there with theories and digging into the world books and all that. I find that very interesting, and no one knows what's going to happen. I don't think
they live inside a Dyson sphere.
I'm also the kind of person who memorizes shit unintentionally. This shot
Yeah.
Now I wait the whole season until I see that shot, and as soon as I see someone with that armor, I'm gonna go, oh, I know they're gonna be on a Kraken ship.
It's one of the things that ruin movies for me now is because when you see most of those shots in a trailer, you're just waiting for that shot.
Yeah. Well, the movie can't end because they haven't gotten to the palm trees yet.
Exactly.
You know?
I'm pretty good about forgetting those things.
I'm terrible at it. It's my fault, but I'm not the kind of person who laughs at the joke in the movie that was in the trailer. Because there's like, Captain Marvel or whatever, when she punches the old women.
There were a lot of people dying.
People dying. And I'm like, you've seen I feel like you must have seen this before.
Those people are able to buy into a certain amount of joy that I guess I don't have in my life anymore.
It's my fault.
Those white nerds.
It's my fault, but I go completely numb. If you've shown it to me in the trailer, then I know it exists, and there's almost no other context. The best trailers are the ones that change the context. Yeah. So when it actually unfolds in the movie itself, it's different.
And I think HBO does a really good job of this. I think they'll throw something at you knowing as a fan you'll have a certain expectation of it, and then when it comes to the episode, it's completely different. Because I know a lot of times, we've watched some Game of Thrones before, and you'll either turn it off or walk out before the preview of next week. And I think a lot of times they will tease something, expecting the audience to know what's going to happen, and then it was a real reversal.
But it's still pieces, and I don't want any pieces because then my mind, like a web, starts trying to put the pieces together. Like this.
Thanks for sacrificing for this, because this is clearly, I guess, Euron Greyjoy went and got the Golden Company, which I don't think the Golden Company's been. Maybe they've been mentioned in the TV show.
I don't think.
But it's a pretty big.
They would have
nice
maybe been
chunk
mentioned
of a book.
when Daenerys was gathering up her soldiers.
This was one of the only things I think was minor spoilery. And then I guess they show some people, but these guys might have died last season, but they don't.
It was pretty clear that they didn't. They ran away, and there wasn't necessarily a shot of them, but it was pretty heavily implied that they survived.
They've got, what do we have? 6 episodes left. 2 60-minute episodes, probably 3 80-minute ones, and then 1 90-minute episode for the next season. They're going to have to start really killing people. Like, there's going to be some battle scene where 4 or 5 recurring characters just immediately killed.
They could totally flip the script, so to speak, and not kill a single person the entire season, and then give you the bummer of all endings.
Everybody lives?
No, everyone dies.
Just of old age?
No. I mean,
they save everyone to the last episode.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lots of close calls.
No, I think there's people dying every episode.
I think the brave thing to do would be the bad guys win, because everything that has been done in TV has been done, and HBO typically is okay pissing people off. Look at the Sopranos ending.
Good ending, if you ask me, though.
See, but that's the thing; it's very divisive.
Yeah. I think it asked the viewer to think about something for a minute. Tony got whacked at the end of Sopranos. That's what happened, but you have to have been a conscious viewer to know that was what was going to happen.
Then why didn't they show it?
Oh,
To be clever, I guess.
No, I don't. I'm just saying HBO has a history.
They have some balls, I guess.
Yeah, so you have to ask yourself, does it matter if any of these characters live? Number one, they're not real, so it doesn't. So you can do whatever you want. But for in the course of human history, we have really enjoyed media where the good guy wins, and we're not really big fans of when there's a sad ending or a bad ending. Something like The Mist or Arlington Road, where you go, I don't feel so good. Why did that character have to die? Couldn't they have come back? And it's like, I still feel that way. Isle of Dogs is a good example where I'm like, I will be really sad if this character dies, stuff like that. So
I mean, I already know how the show's going to end.
Oh.
Yeah? Call it right now.
Jon Snow discovers he has ice powers.
Nice.
Okay?
Not
he
wrong.
can shoot ice beams from his hands. Ultimately, the battle comes down to him and the Night King firing ice beams at each other.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it looks like Jon Snow's losing because he also injured his arm, so he's only firing with one hand.
Yeah.
And then, so Ned Stark appears on his side and then helps him push.
Does he have a halo?
And then Rhaegar Targaryen appears on his other side and helps him push.
Nice. Yeah.
And then that gives him the energy because Rhaegar's got fire powers too. So then it creates a spiral, blue and red, that goes like that, and
Song
then
of Ice and
envelops
Fire.
the Night King, and
that-
then the Night King pops, and then all of his soldiers pop.
And
I
that
was going to say,
way-
Night King pops, everyone else dies, right? That's how it's going to...
The thing about
Oh,
the
yeah.
Night King, though, is that even if just a small cell of him exists, he'll regenerate. So you have to get
Where
rid
there
of
become
all of
two
it.
of them.
have to
It's one of
eviscerate
those
him.
where
No.
you-
He comes back twice as strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you try to do your teleportation trick where you take him to
King Kai's.
King Kai's place. Talking about Dragon Ball Z, the Cell Saga.
No, I was talking about Game of Thrones.
Arguably the best saga.
I'm telling you, he's gonna have his arm hurt. And he's going, ah.
I still think the
Westeros
best,
bomb.
I think the best way you can end it is a spaceship, a Russian spaceship lands in the middle of the battle, and it goes, "I'm from Earth. I need your help."
Oh, I got a better one. They win and they're like, we've done it. And it pulls back and it turns out all of this was taking place on a small plot of land in the middle of Central Park. Modern day New York City.
You're joking about aliens. Some people do think that the comet is a
they
spaceship or something. Because before he wrote fantasy, Martin wrote a lot of sci-fi that had kind of recurring themes that you can see kind of eked into the background of Game of Thrones.
Sure.
So
Okay.
there's a lot of collective consciousness stuff, like the weirwood trees and stuff.
We always have to suspend our disbelief for things to be enjoyable, I feel like, and that's sort of what escapism is. But at the same time, you could, if you want to pretend Game of Thrones is real, which people have done this before, it could theoretically be happening on another planet somewhere because the universe is vast and infinite, and this could just be another planet where this is their story.
The planet's called Planetos, Adam.
Sure, this is the planet of Planetos, and
Is that true?
why
I
not?
didn't know that.
Is that true?
Yes.
So Westeros is, what was it?
Is a continent
On
Gotcha.
Planetos.
on Planetos.
On Planetos.
Yes,
Interesting.
sir.
I mean, whatever. It's not any stupider than any of the other made
How
up
many
words.
tens of thousands of names did he have to come up with? He came short.
When
on
do they call it
Planetos.
Planetos? Is that in
I think
one of the
I don't
books?
know. I
Extended
don't know where
lore
I got
books.
that from.
Anyway, yeah, it's.
Telling you.
I don't know.
Ned, Rhaegar,
Ice
Beam.
beams.
No matter
Beam
what
battle.
happens, I'll have to always look at the journey and go, was I satisfied? Did I get some good ups and downs?
Were there enough titties?
Could I have been doing something better instead of watching this? The answer is no.
Probably not.
I've been watching Dragon Ball Kai.
Well, what you could have been doing was brushing your teeth with a Quip toothbrush.
It's a good point, Dan.
You have Quip. You have Quip. Who has Quip?
I have Quip.
I like Quip a lot.
I like it too.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
That's an easy sponsor. They're good.
They really are. One of the most important things we do for our health every day is brushing our teeth. Yet most of us don't do it properly. Quip is a better electronic toothbrush, created by dentists and designers. It was designed to make brushing your teeth more simple, affordable, and even enjoyable. I've been told that I brush too hard. Quip has sensitive sonic vibrations that are gentle enough on your sensitive gums. Quip comes with a multi-use cover that mounts to your mirror and unmounts to slide over your bristles for on-the-go brushing. It declutters your sink or cabinet, which I really love. Quip makes traveling with an electronic toothbrush easier because it doesn't require a clunky charger and it runs for 3 months on one charge. 3 out of 4 of us use bristles that are old, worn out, and ineffective. Quip brush heads are automatically delivered on a dentist-recommended schedule of every 3 months for just $5. Quip is one of the first electronic toothbrushes accepted by the American Dental Association. My favorite feature is Quip's built-in 2-minute timer. It pulses every 30 seconds to remind you when to switch sides, helping to guide a full and even clean. Up to 90% of us don't brush for a full 2 minutes or don't clean evenly, and this feature solves that problem. That's why I love Quip and why they're backed by over 20,000 dental professionals. Quip starts at just $25, and if you go to getquip.com/film right now, you get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush. So yeah, you can get your first refill pack for free at getquip.com/film. That's a refill pack with a new brush, new battery. So check them out. Get Quip. I know we all like it a lot. I love that it reminds me how long 2 minutes is, because I guess I never brushed my teeth for 2 minutes, because when I started using Quip, I'm like, holy shit, I'm going on for a long time here.
It's
But
not a race.
no, it makes my teeth happy. It makes my body happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, y'all get Quip, and thanks for bringing us here, Quip, to talk about Game of Thrones. You guys have any final thoughts? We can move on to another story.
I'm just very excited.
Well,
It's
let's see.
also going to be happening during the heat of Arizona Circle
Oh.
production wrapping up. So
That's right. You guys are going to Austin.
we'll be
at the end of
super
the week.
stressed.
But we'll have Game of Thrones to keep us even more stressed. Because it's funny because this show and Silicon Valley would always air back to back. I felt like Silicon Valley was the more stressful show.
Oh, really?
Because it would you'd start with Game of Thrones and then you cool off with a comedy that ends up being a lot more stressful. I'm just saying it's the last season. show an erect cock.
That's fair.
Just do it.
That's fair.
They can do whatever they want.
Hasn't been done, as far as I know, in any other HBO show.
Spartacus had a really good ending. I recently finished all of Spartacus.
Did it have
and
an
the
erect
ending
cock?
of that show? It has cock,
I know, but
but not in the final episode, I don't think.
needs to be erect.
Are there any, so we're headed towards the end. There's a lot of like culminative action, a lot of characters that have been pit against each other that you want to see face off. There's no way they're all going to happen. But are there any of those certain face offs or deaths that you're really looking forward to see how they do?
Bowl.
The Clegane Bowl.
Yeah.
Do you think they both die? Do all of these fights end with both of them dying, stabbing each other at the same time?
I don't know. It feels like setting up all of this with him being a little brother and stuff. Like, it would be weird if his only gratification was in killing him but dying. That still seems like losing. But I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really want any character to die. I would just like to see Melisandre naked a couple more times.
What, as an old woman, though?
Either.
If you could see her naked 3 more times, but once was as an old woman, would you take it?
I'd take it.
Yeah, me too.
You think she just wanders into the battle?
She's banging.
Yeah.
Keep her going.
Where is she in the? Didn't she just like walk away?
She went to back to
Dragonstone.
whatever Bravos or whatever.
Oh.
She went to
Shai?
Dragonstone. Yeah, and then she ran out when Jon Snow got there because she was like, if he sees me, he's gonna kick my ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
And said, good night,
But
you
then she was
Dutch
like,
fox.
Varys was like, well, I guess this is the last I'll ever see you. And she's like, no, I'll be back. And then she went, because you and I both know that we have to come back. We have to be here one last time, implying that they have to die in Westeros.
They share
Implying
some
that they
secret.
have some sort of thing going on. So she may be back without clothes.
And as an old woman.
So Arya still has people on her list to kill. Do you think she gets any of those?
Cersei has to die, I feel like. Look, the biggest fuck you they could do to the audience, which I think they should do, kill everyone on the show except for Cersei.
Yeah, that'd be great, actually.
Yeah, that's her final victory, is her on basically becoming the queen of Ash, a kingdom of Ash. You have nothing.
So she's pregnant.
Yeah, she's pregnant with the
Ash baby.
Ash baby.
So
Ice baby.
Does Arya get her, or does Tyrion get her, or
I don't think
Jaime maybe?
I don't. My theory was always that Jaime would be the one to kill her.
'Cause, I mean, that's more dramatic than any of the others.
I don't know. I'm curious if Jaime's even going to make it back to the south.
Yeah,
Oh, because she's on Arya's list too, or he is.
Yeah, but her list is changing. She's edited that list several times. The Hound's constantly on and off that list.
Yeah. So alive people still on the list are the Hound, Ilan Payne, the guy that executed Ned Stark.
Oh God.
The Mountain.
He might have died of old age by now.
The Mountain, Melisandre, and Beric Dondarrion. So
The Mountain's
Beric
technically
Dondarrion, huh?
dead.
maybe he got off the list.
Yeah. It's sort of like, I guess, like Bruce Wayne dying, but Batman's still alive.
That's what it made. That the most narrative one would be the Hound and the Mountain are fighting, and then it looks like the Hound is going to lose, and Arya steps in to save him, because that would be a redemption arc for her, but also closure of a revenge arc. But that I thought of it. I don't want that to be the
Yeah,
case.
exactly. Yeah. How do you get all those characters to King's Landing? Because I guess, looking at the trailer, thinking about the way the plot's happening, there's going to be a 90-minute episode where they're fighting in Winterfell.
It's going to be. I mean, everyone's moving towards the north to battle.
Except Cersei, who's like,
Except
I'm
for
going to sit
Cersei,
this out.
who said that she's going to
Smart.
pick up. But what she's going to probably realize, Jaime's going to go and be like, they're not coming. And so she's going to be like, well, I should send my troops, and then we'll just pick up the pieces. We'll split their army in half or something like that. That's a way to get all of them together, is that she's like, oh, I'm going to kill these people, and they're going to kill these people.
Dragon bus.
She's going to send a raven to the Night King, asking if he wants to get married.
An alliance.
You remind me of my dad.
Oh, you're just going to kill me, huh?
Well, that's how a lot of the battles, or I guess the big conflicts, have ended in the story of Game of Thrones. Is you marry somebody, and then we're at peace. So
Yeah.
maybe someone does marry the Night King.
It is a frigid peace.
Well, the reason he's upset, though, isn't it because his lover, the woman he loved or whatever?
I think that's confusing. No one really knows if
That's
the Night King from Game of Thrones is the same thing as the Night's King from the prequel that they're going to make.
hindsight. Should have gone for 2 different.
Anyway,
All good things must come to an end.
I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah,
I think we all are. Yeah, I think maybe at the end of it all, we can sit down and talk again.
I just want to be able to, when it's over, go to Lawrence and say, "You can watch this now."
And he'll go, nah.
Yeah, he'll go, no, I'm going to watch more 1980s
Yeah.
Tetris videos.
I just
Fast and Furious.
I
You
just
need to
found
watch
a
Fast
season
and the
with
Furious
Degrassi.
7 again.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a defense for why he didn't watch it. And I just can't.
No, it's
remember
because he said
has
that
every right.
he said that televisions are like treadmills and they're just trying to keep you on. And he would rather watch stories. So he wasn't going to get invested in Game of Thrones without knowing already that he would get closure by the end of it, which I understand.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
And to his credit, Game of Thrones, as it's been going on, is somewhat starting to resemble most typical shows. Characters have plot armor. Not everyone's safe. You can probably guarantee Tyrion's going to be there to the very end.
I think there's a few characters that have plot armor. But
Yeah, I
think a
it-
lot of them are going to die.
They throw you off with season 1 because they go crazy, right? We killed off the main character. Well, it's in the book, so it's sort of thematically in line. But they rarely just kill off. Like a lot of the main characters from the first books are still trucking along. Most
Some
of them.
yeah. They just do a better job of it. Whereas if you watch Walking Dead,
Sure.
it's a character who you haven't seen for 3 episodes who pops up again, says one line, and then gets shot. And you're like,
Right.
oh, you only remembered he existed because you needed to kill someone.
Well, and I guess that shows also they'll kill off a character when that person gets a better contract for another TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And they want out.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Whereas these poor people signed up for the whole thing. You ain't going nowhere.
All right. So I guess recently there's also been a little bit of Suicide Squad 2 news.
Whoa.
I know everyone here is super into Suicide Squad, right?
I would say I'm into it now.
Is
It's
that
going to
because
be a
of
really
James
weird
Gunn?
experience for me if I watch Suicide Squad 2 and I like it. That's going to be very, that's like strange for me to cope with. It's like a foster child. No, that's not. I was gonna say it's like basically being abused, and then being taken to a very good home, and then
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute, I don't understand. No, this doesn't feel right. I don't belong here.
My
It's the same house, though.
My hope is that the Suicide Squad 2 trailer comes out and it sucks. I hope it's a bad-looking trailer and it's an awesome movie. Because the Suicide Squad
tank the
trailer
trailer.
wasn't bad. I remember watching and going, oh, there's probably a good movie here. And then
The first one.
yeah, I was kind of into it. And that's me being a DC nerd and being like, yeah, some of it looks pretty shitty. And like, maybe the Joker isn't complete garbage. And then seeing the movie and hating every moment of it.
Well, yeah, I think, it's got James Gunn. The most important person for any movie is the director, and they have a pretty awesome director. And I think it's a huge, awesome middle finger to Disney and Marvel after firing him
They
for.
don't care. Yeah, but
Well, I'm sure they don't care, but I think it's great just to go to the competition to their, mediocre movie and then turn around to cool
well,
one.
it also seems like they're letting him do whatever he
Yeah.
wants.
Yeah.
They're like,
Absolutely.
listen, you just call it Suicide Squad, kind of make it Suicide Squad-y.
Yeah.
Then you can do whatever you want, which
Yeah.
I'm sure is probably what was more attractive to him than the prospect of doing another comic book movie.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, I think that might be DC and Warner's best bet at kind of not catching up with Marvel, because I think that's impossible at this point, but finding interesting filmmakers and letting them do whatever they want. Like give them the name and sort of a costume and power that's similar, and do whatever you want.
But they basically said they're recasting it, right? Like,
Well, Idris Elba is taking over for Will Smith. Will Smith's making lots of great career decisions these
I
days.
wonder why
and
that
stepping
happened.
out of a James Gunn
I'm
movie.
genuinely curious if that was Will Smith's choice or if James Gunn's like, all right, well, if you want me to do whatever I want to do, I don't want to do it with Will Smith.
The official word, that could make sense because James Gunn seems to have like integrity and might not be down with
For
Scientology
the record,
cult bullshit.
I didn't think that Will Smith was a problem. Of all the problems of Suicide Squad 1, I didn't think Will Smith was one of them. I thought it was jarring that he's Will Smith. It's hard to win me over on the character of Deadshot because it's ultimately going to be me thinking, hey, that's Will Smith. But his performance wasn't bad, and he seemed to be one of the few people in the movie who kind of understood what maybe it should have been. which was fun.
They're saying it's scheduling conflicts.
Okay.
He's got other movies to shoot.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It's believable. He's a busy guy.
Genie pickups. You gotta do it. There was just so many non-characters in it, which is fine when it's called the Suicide Squad and someone's supposed to die. But when Slipknot shows up the last second, doesn't get a title card.
Yeah.
You're like, and you see him die in the trailer. You're like, well,
Put on your 3D glasses.
I
Was
must
that
go
Stan
now.
Lee telling everyone to put their
No,
3D
it's
glasses
just like
on?
the warning that always comes up. Like, it's not exciting for 3D to just happen when some little guy pops up and goes, "Put on your 3D glasses."
Yeah.
That's what happens with Slipknot.
But yeah, so are they?
So
I don't
so
remember
Will,
most of the plot.
Will
so
Smith's out.
I forget who died.
Yeah, I do too, honestly.
Did Fireman die? El
I think
Diablo?
I know Margot Robbie survived, so
course.
Harley Quinn will be in it.
Yeah, and Joker survived.
Joker
'cause he breaks
survived.
her out at the end.
I guess sources are conflicted as to whether the most important character, Joel Kinnaman, what was it, Rick Flag,
Oh, yeah,
the
Rick
leader of the
Flag,
squad
yeah.
with a gun.
Who
Yeah.
cares?
No one knows if he's back or Viola Davis is Amanda Waller. They have some places online say that they have sources that have said the characters that are going to be the new Suicide Squad, which is probably a great idea. Just like kick out all the people no one cares about.
Yeah, who do you got?
Bring in new wacky characters, and these guys sound great. We've got Ratcatcher. You know Ratcatcher, Adam? You're a
I've
big
never
Batman
heard
guy.
of him.
Supposedly a Batman villain that was a exterminator and can communicate with
think there
armies
was-
of rodents.
I was gonna say the Rat King, but I'm pretty sure that's
Ninja
Teenage
Turtles,
Ninja
yeah.
Turtles.
He had a jet ski that had snakes on it.
Speaking,
I also had that toy. Oh,
wait,
man.
where'd it go? Speaking of Ninja Turtles, there's a Batman versus the Ninja Turtles DC movie coming out.
Really?
I think these are pretty. I think it's great. What Warner has this huge series of movies going.
Yeah.
And they're some of them are hit or miss, but way better than what Marvel's doing.
Who else? What other?
So we got my favorite is King Shark.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was in the animated
We
one.
had a shark and a rat.
Yeah.
I guess that he thinks he's the son of a shark god or whatever, but it's find and replace Killer Croc and change it to
Well, Killer
Shark
Croc
Man.
has BET now, so he doesn't need to continue fighting.
Yes.
That was his story. Remember, he wanted BET.
Remember
that
he-
was the only thing.
The network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, he said that
don't
he would join the
remember.
Suicide Squad if they got him BET.
There's just a part
That's
where he
fun.
he talks and he's like, "Yo, homie, we're doing this," and I just remember everyone going, "Oh, he talks like that."
Yeah.
The only thing I remember him like jumping on a ceiling and running real quick and it looking stupid.
He crawls away.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. You were probably upside down because you passed out because the movie sucked.
We've also got Peacemaker, who's a guy who believes so extremely in peace that he commits extreme acts of violence to keep peace.
Okay, that's sort of Punisher-esque.
Yes.
And another Batman villain, maybe the most famous Batman villain, Polka Dot Man,
Okay.
who has polka dots on his clothes that do different things like fireballs and
You know, it'd be
grenades
great
and
if
stuff.
we could figure out a situation where DC would be able to borrow Marvel villains. Because there's so many good Marvel villains that are just sitting there waiting, like Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Well, so there was actually a little bit of Doctor Doom news recently because Noah Hawley, what was that his name? The guy that does Fargo and Legion and stuff. He's written a script and apparently showed it to Kevin Feige. I don't know. I guess with all the mergers, because it was Fox. So with all the mergers, who knows where the rights to that stuff are.
Well, those all
that's
sound
it?
really bad.
Yeah,
And then
but I think
Deadshot's
that's a
back.
good thing. That they're all stupid. I mean, it kind of fits James Gunn's MO, like
Yeah.
Tree Man and Raccoon Guy.
I remember when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people were like, "Well, I guess they can't all be hits." And he made that movie work really well.
The important thing is that the characters mean something to James Gunn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they have so little to him that he can project a different personality. Like he can take a personality and give it to King Shark. Well, that one will be easy, but Polka Dot Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this out here. I think we bring back Enchantress. Because I liked watching her dance. Occasionally it would cut to her dancing at that portal, and I was like, this is my favorite part of the whole movie.
Did she die? Did they kill her or anything?
Maybe.
I really can't remember this movie.
I just remember her and Valerian, and when they get interchanged as boy and woman, I would know the difference. Anyway, yeah, no, I that excites me.
Well,
there's also
4 months
the
ago, would
Birds
you
of
have
Prey
been
movie
excited
coming,
for
right?
Suicide Squad 2?
No.
It's all James Gunn.
If just James Gunn being involved gives me hope, And it's weird because the first one made so much money, made like $1 billion or something.
Which makes no sense.
I don't know.
Good timing?
Possibly, maybe. So I've said this before. Like I'm hopeful whenever a good guy's down, people who mean well, hopefully, or at least the creators are brought in with the, hey, this first one made money, but creatively it's not where we want to be. Hey, James Gunn, you're free. Do you have a vision? And he was like, I got some ideas. And that's all I want to see is cool, something original that makes it an interesting and fun movie. Like, I mean, Thor Ragnarok wasn't the most original movie, but it was a nice breath of fresh air.
Ragnarok, yeah, it was great.
It's like such a great just sort of standalone. It's actually rewatchable. It's funny. It has soul, and that's when you get creative people like Taika Waititi involved and people above him who say yes, do what you will, and just make it good. Speaking
of Taika, he is doing a show for Apple where they're taking the Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits and turning it into a TV show. I didn't know Apple really produced a lot of stuff.
They're starting now.
They want to fight this fight.
And according to one random Reddit comment I saw, apparently it's not great. Like, what? I guess, like Apple executives are giving creative notes on some of these. Again, random Reddit comment.
I read that a while ago.
Seemed to express some sort of sense of authority about it, but.
I mean, it makes sense. You're an executive of this company. You want input on what you're spending tens of millions of dollars on. But you are
not creative
a business executive commenting on entertainment.
You should let a creative come in and say, this is what I want to make, and then you should say yes or no, and that should be the end of it.
Yeah. But I think Ragnarok, great movie. I think even better than making a great movie, Taika seems to have been given, a blank check to do what he wants. Because he's doing Time Bandits. They've got, What We Do in the Shadows TV show coming out. Yeah, his weird Bunny Hitler movie.
Bunny Hitler.
And he's going to direct a couple episodes, probably of The Mandalorian for Disney Plus.
That's cool.
Sweet.
He's got a blank check.
He's blank.
He also produced this other New Zealand movie about two women, The Breaker-Uppers, that I watched. That was pretty good too. It's fun movie. He has a certain sensibility, a sense of comedy that I like.
A little offbeat.
Yeah, it's spreading. I like spreading it around. So,
what's the show called or movie?
The Breaker-Uppers, I think. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's good.
Time Bandits, for those of you who don't know, is a movie.
I've seen it.
It's a little kid who's like a history nerd, and he starts going through time with these dwarves that are time traveling thieves. It's fun. I mean, it's Terry Gilliam.
There's certain
at his
things.
Peak,
I was gonna say, there's certain things with Terry Gilliam which if it didn't just like come on TV all the time when you were a kid and you just kind of got used to the fact that that's what it is, it's hard to watch it because like Baron Munchausen came on as a kid. And I fucking watched the shit out of that. So when I watched it when I was older, I was like, oh yeah, well it's Baron. That's just how the movie is. Just whatever. Well, what's her face? Uma Thurman or whatever, like is a naked lady. But then Time Bandits, I never, for whatever reason, never watched as a kid.
Really?
And then as an adult, I was like, well, I should watch Time Bandits, and I watched it, and I was like, it was like speaking a foreign language. I wasn't immersed in it enough, and so I didn't really have a positive experience. But I was still like, oh man, if I had seen this as a kid and this was my kid movie. This is my Monster Squad or whatever, then I'd be like, this is good.
Yeah. I just remember there's a story about it where the dwarves got drunk a lot and drunk on alcohol and on power because the director, Terry Gilliam, would tell them they were the stars of the movie. And so they thought they were tough and they were like being shitty to everybody. And then they saw the movie and they're like, we're barely in this. And they're like, well, you're not. It's about the Time Bandits, but it's really about the kid. Look at her dance.
Whoa, she's dancing. This is embarrassing.
Is this like a dancing wallpaper? What are we watching?
I don't know.
And this.
Oh, it's in price.
No, there's one of these for each character.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Look at
that.
I did like that. I mean, it ended up seeming kind of lame when the movie came out, but the attitude and style that the movie came out with that first trailer, I was intrigued by.
The marketing had style. The movie has no style.
Exactly.
That's part of the reason it sucks so bad. Like, even the first trailer that came out, they're like, oh, this wasn't the one you were supposed to see. It's devoid of like style. It takes itself very, very seriously.
He's like, why do I have to come in?
Yeah. That's, by the way, more than he got in the actual movie.
Gets out of a car, punches a woman, his head explodes.
Yeah. His name was Christopher?
I
didn't know.
I know the
Now
idea.
you know.
Every time you saw him, it was always like, there's promotional photos, you just see him going like, why? Why am I here? I'm spending more time promoting this movie than I'm actually in it.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Oh, well. Hopefully he got paid.
Yeah.
Right on. Anything else you guys have been watching recently that you want to tell people to check out?
A lot of Apex Legends streams.
You guys watch any Umbrella Academy?
Finished it.
I dig it.
I haven't
finished it
yet.
I thought it
though.
was garbage.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's like some weird, like Wes Anderson mixed with who's the Dumbo guy?
Tim Burton?
Tim Burton. I don't know. It's got a funky style.
I thought that too, and then I'm kind of with Adam, where I don't know that it's garbage, but I don't know that I necessarily think it's good.
It's garbage is a meme.
It's-
That's just the first word that came to my mind. It's watchable. It's okay.
Going back to Lawrence and the like, we're just killing time. We're killing runtime in service of this question that we're not sure what
There
the
is a
answer
lot of
is
that.
yet. Lawrence was like, I watched Umbrella Academy last night, and I was like, no, of all the movies to watch.
Yeah.
Or of all the shows to pick up, this is the exact one that you will hate, I'm sure.
Yeah, it didn't need 10 episodes, and
That's clear already. I'm like halfway through it.
I really hate being that person who says the source material is so much better, but the show got me to read the comic, and I really like the comic. And
That art is crazy.
the things that make it really unique, I feel like you don't need to spend 10 episodes getting to. And I get it. You have to make certain sacrifices, but I do just kind of wish it was animated and they could just tell a different version, they can adapt that story because I think that would actually look really cool as a animation.
Yeah.
Who's it? Gabriel Ba,
Yeah.
who does the art. It's so cool.
It
And
looks so good.
the show once James said it, it ruined it for me, but it feels a lot like Heroes. And
It's got more style than Heroes ever had.
a little. I mean,
But it
yeah.
might be going nowhere, which I guess is a problem. I haven't gotten that far in it. But
Yeah, it's just.
I don't know. All the characters are so sad and upset and not
well,
in a fun Wes Anderson-y way, and kind of they all seem like they were abused as children, which I guess they were.
There's
they
one
all are,
point.
yeah.
They're just sad.
There's a Diablo trailer that came up, and it said his core temperature was 666 degrees Fahrenheit. But the problem with Umbrella Academy is there's one scene kind of later on where two characters have a talk, and one character is trying to convince the other character to do something. And at the end of the conversation, at the end of the scene, one of the characters says something, and then the other character goes, "Why didn't you just tell me that in the beginning? Let's go." Which is like a weird admission by the writer that we are killing time. And if me, not even being these people, it's the first thing that would have occurred to me to say.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
Well, anything good you've watched recently that people should check
Again,
out other
I
than
finished
Apex?
Spartacus.
Yeah, Spartacus.
Spartacus is great.
Right on.
Jess is out of town this week, so we usually watch things together. So
Oh,
I know that
watch
better.
everything.
Elise and I watched all of Pen 15,
Yeah.
which is a Hulu original show. It's these two women they're like 30-year-old women, but they're playing their 13-year-old selves going to middle school for the first time, and basically like dealing with being
Sounds
a teenager. And it's great. It's a comedy, and it's fucking great.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did watch Mission Impossible Fallout finally.
Great movie.
Damn good movie. What a fun romp that was.
Right.
That was a good afternoon.
He loads his arms.
Yeah, sound effect doesn't happen. Great action. That was a really good action movie. Those movies are always they're spot on. But you guys already did a whole podcast
Christopher
on it. So.
McQuarrie. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, dude. Tom Cruise. He's starting to look old. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Wait,
He's
he's
still-
starting to look old finally.
Yeah. I was gonna
At the
say,
age of 56, yeah. I feel bad only because he clearly loves what he's doing. And even after he breaks his foot, he still got a positive attitude about the whole thing. I was just like, oh man, I wish he could be young forever, and he could actually keep putting his heart into these things.
I
so.
don't know how they insure those movies. Like the
He
dude
made, like-
risks his life.
Well,
They
they're not
make
going
a
to
lot
let
of
him anymore.
They make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, he made like $40 million off of that insurance claim. He
He's
broke
like,
his foot.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, studio most likely no one will ever insure another Tom Cruise action movie ever again because of the payout.
Because like
We'll
he
see.
learned to fly that fucking helicopter himself. I think that's nuts.
It's mind blowing. But that's what I mean, though. Now that the injuries are happening and he's getting older and recovery time takes longer and all that stuff, it's like it's not going to happen.
I feel like he's like got to be hooked. He's got to be like an adrenaline junkie or something. Like hooked on risking his life.
Yeah.
I think he wants to meet death. Anyway,
all right. I guess let us know what you think's going to happen at the end of Game of Thrones, and we'll probably talk about that again in a couple months. Who also would you like to see in Suicide Squad 2? Let us know.
Shark King. It's already been answered.
Shark King.
And Rat King.
What other Ninja Turtles villains?
Baxter Stockwell.
That one, the robot version that was in the video game.
Oh, Knucklehead, Brain, something head.
That was Knucklebrain.
Metalhead?
Maybe Metalhead. He's cool looking.
I want Ace the Duck.
No. What
Bring
about
back
the Manta Ray Man?
I was going to say Street Sharks.
All right. Thanks for coming around, you guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
You tell us in the comments if you think you would have liked or retweeted that tweet.
Yeah, like
I like the people saying no. No, I would not.
No.
comment L for like and T for or an R for retweet.
R for retweet.
But also a 0 for I would have not interacted with it in any
0
way.
for
G if